Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of this Mantis Fighter build time-lapse video. So we left off, we just closed off the main fuselage, decided to make it so that you can't get inside, and that does give us the option later on to add more components inside the fuselage later if we need to. So as we press on with this build, hopefully you can start seeing the ship really taking some shape now, and you know, towards the end I'll show you what I was working to, and you can decide whether I've managed to achieve a good replica, a good build. So yeah, enjoy. So I really quite like how I've done this top section of the vessel here. You know, sort of that sort of inverse slope almost goes against kind of traditional aerodynamics, where everything's sort of going to lean back. I think it works really well. The rest of the ship, the rest of the ship leans back, except this bit which juts forward, gives it sort of like a strike pose, and then this part here at the top is really why I named the ship Mantis, because it's got that sort of overarching look about it, like it's going to come down on top of you from the front. So yeah, I think it looks really menacing. I went again with the plasma, sorry, not the plasma, the pulse laser on the top there, so you're not working with all sorts of different ammunition types. You've already got missiles, the minigun, and the pulse lasers on here, so you're already having to manage 3 different ammunition types for this ship already. The 3 pulse lasers hopefully make it pretty a pretty deadly fighter, makes it very competitive in the battlefield. I think hopefully that's the idea, that this thing is a powerhouse of firepower, and it's really designed for taking down CVs. There's so much armor on this thing. The whole outer shell is made of hardened steel, so it's not indestructible by any means, and you know, I think if I used combat steel, it would be ridiculously expensive, and also ridiculously heavy, and it just wouldn't handle like a fighter. As it turns out, you know, we'll find out later. You'll see later, but with the thrusters that I have on it by the end of this build are not good enough. Basically, it's too heavy, too lumbering. But yeah, we'll see how I address that later. So here we are, really. I mean, you can see now this is pretty much the finished ship in terms of its overall shape, design, style. What I'm doing now is just applying some textures, and then I'm going to paint it as well. And after that, it's pretty much the fine tuning. I still have to figure out, I think, some box locations for storage, and I want to put things like a constructor and a fridge into the ship somewhere accessible. Again, you know, remembering what I said before about having to keep the ship, or the components on the ship, accessible from outside the ship, because there's no interior. Even though this is quite a big ship, and you probably could have an interior. I think if I did have an interior, there wouldn't be enough room on the inside to do anything anyway, because, you know, as we saw in the inside, you've got the RCS units and the generators, and there's barely enough room in there to. You certainly wouldn't be able to put a seat in there, I don't think, anyway. So everything's got to be accessible from the outside that has storage elements. So I've gone with the sort of army green kind of colour that's available on the colour palette. Sorry, colour planet. That'll be interesting. All the colours of the rainbow on one planet. So I've gone with the green, the darkest green available at the moment. And when you're sort of painting something like this, I think it's best to just coat the whole thing in one colour, and then apply detail colour later on. I think it just makes it a lot easier then, rather than trying to faff around with putting the detail on before the main coat. Because the great thing about putting the main coat is you can just spray and pray with that paint gun. You just shake the mouse all over it and cover it in green, and then you can be a little bit more precise with the detail colour later. So you know, at the end of this video, when I show you the picture that I've been working off to design this, to build this ship, you'll see why I picked these colours. Essentially, the colours as depicted on the picture, basically. But yeah, I think it looks really cool. I think it looks really badass, and I hope the firepower that I've given it justifies the look, the badass look. The other difficult thing about building these ships is it's all very well putting on tons of armor like I have done, but in order to sort of maintain maneuverability of the ship, you've got to put more thrusters on, and the more thrusters on, the more power you use, and the more power you use, the less economical the ship is to run. And I think this is a hungry ship. It's going to be a hungry ship. It's going to use a lot of power, but considering how heavily armed and armoured it is, I think it's a good payoff. You would put this ship inside a capital vessel, you would dock it in the capital vessel, and if you needed to take it out to go blow a space station up, this is the ship you would use. You'd keep your capital vessel out of harm's way at the distance, and you'd take this thing into combat instead, because, you know, it's designed for combat. I was quite conscious of placing the explosive components far away from each other, spreading them out, so, you know, it's like I said, it's hardened steel. It will take an absolute beating, I think. I could be completely wrong. I've never actually tested this thing in battle, but I think it will. So we'd have to wait and see, I suppose. But yeah, I think it looks badass. At least if you go down fighting in this thing, you will look badass doing it. So it balances out. If I'm completely wrong and it's weak as hell and you die in like one hit, at least you look the part. It looks awesome. I think it looks awesome. Anyway. So as you saw there, we took the ship for a little test flight and tried to land it on Omicron here, and it fell to the ground like a stone. And as you can see, upon landing and turning the thrusters off, it falls backwards. And I thought that it might fall backwards in the design, to be honest, because obviously its very shape doesn't really lend itself to atmospheric landing on gravity-placed planets. But I did not expect it to fall out the sky like a stone. So obviously I needed to increase its downward thrust quite significantly. So I've added another 3 thrusters on there, I believe, and I've managed to stabilize it so it essentially hovers in atmosphere, but it's still not going up. I have to literally point the ship up in order for it to ascend. If I just hold the space bar, it doesn't go anywhere. So I had to add even more downward thrusters in, as you can see, to give it some upward thrust when using the space bar. So yeah, I've more than doubled the thrusters under the underside, and it does highlight an issue. I tried to put this ram pin because I realised when you're on the ground, it's really difficult to see over that ledge into the storage boxes there. The ramp doesn't really work, so I take it off again. But it might be, I think it will be accessible if you add a slightly bigger ramp on there, or just jump up onto the side and access the boxes. I think, figure out a way to get in there, it'll be fine. So the test flight here initially showed me that the ship doesn't. It turns fine, but it drifts a lot, and you have to hold the A or D keys down a lot to stop it from essentially drifting sideways. So it needs some more horizontal thrusts. Basically, it needs more thrusters everywhere, and one of the things I completely forgot to do was forward thrust. So it didn't stop. It just carried on. So the little thrusters didn't cut it. I need the big thrusters to counter out the 4 combat thrusters, or whatever the big thrusters on the back, so that it actually stops, and you can do some strafing maneuvers in this thing. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? It's all very well thinking, I'm going to put loads of guns on this thing and arm it to the teeth and make it near on indestructible. But if it can't move, it's a pretty useless fighter. So, as you can see, power usage is around about 20% when you're using forward and maneuvering thrusters. So, as I said before, it is a bit hungry on the old power usage, and you may decide you want to add in more fuel tanks into it. I think there's room on the pods on the side. You can add them into there quite easily if you wanted to. I think it's a short range carrier fighter. I think it will hold enough fuel to go, do its business and come back with the 2 fuel tanks full of large power packs in there, if you can manage that. I mean, once you get established, fuel in Empyrion isn't too difficult to get by. I'm trying to put large thrusters in here and completely miscalculate the width of this thing, and cock that up. It's only 3 wide. I thought it was 4, so I have to keep the normal one block thrusters in there, unfortunately. Otherwise that would have given me a nice sideways boost of power. I think in this video I leave the sideways thruster as it is, but I have recently the blueprint that's on the workshop. It has got additional thrusters on the side now, so it does have extra stopping power on the sideways movement, as it were. So hopefully you'll find it now. If you do download the blueprint, you'll find it now quite manoeuvrable. But yeah, just watch that power usage. it is a bit hungry. And three pulse lasers go through a lot of ammunition very quickly, so use that sparingly as well. I like to soften the target up with a nice missile barrage first, finish him off with the pulse lasers. The miniguns on the front really is a sort of as a backup. I did wonder with the 3-point pulse lasers whether it would actually hone in on the crosshairs properly, and I did test that, and it does. The 3 pulse lasers from that point, they look very cool when they're firing, and they come in and they do center on the crosshair quite nicely. So anyway guys, that's everything for this build. I hope you really enjoyed this time-lapse video of the build, and I hope you if you do download the blueprint from the workshop, I hope you enjoy the ship. You know, let me know in the comments if you have downloaded it, if you made any changes to it, or any recommendations, or any changes that you would like me to make to it, that you think that I should make to it. Also, just let me know what you think of the ship, what you think of the video as well. It'd be really good to hear from you, and if you did like the video, give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel out. Oh yeah, let me know what you think. You saw the picture there of the original picture that I was working to. So yeah, let me know what you think, if I've managed to get a fairly close approximation to that with this fighter. I mean, obviously it's not going to be perfect, but I think I did a pretty good job. But yeah, let me know what you think. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.